This talented comedian once was one of the most in-demand and highest-paid Hollywood actors, but he let fame go to his head and it nearly cost him his life. Anyways, now he's back on track thanks to the starring role in the movie Bad Boys. Martin Lawrence is an American comedy actor and 90s pop culture sensation. Why did he get banned by the NBC channel? Why did he refuse to co-star with Will Smith in sequels? How did he become a real-life bad boy? And what prompted him to get his life straight? We'll tell you all about it right now.
Happy what's up? What's happening, y'all? Thank you. Appreciate it, big. Taking that job way too seriously.
Who be ye?
Who be I? I be stomping your ass. You put your hand on me one more again. Okay?
Martin Lawrence, how Bad Boys star lives. The hero of this video was born on April 16, 1965, and was named Martin Fitzgerald Lawrence after the civil rights activist Martin Luther King and President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. He was the fourth kid out of 6 to John and Clora Lawrence, and Clora was around 40 at the time. Martin spent his early years in Frankfurt, Germany, as his father was a part of the U.S. military located in West Germany. The family went back to the U.S. when the boy was 6 to 7 years old and settled in Landover, Maryland. 2 years later, his parents hit a rough patch in their relationship and decided to get a divorce. Clora, who used to be a stay-at-home mom, had to get a job as a cashier as Lawrence Sr. was barely involved in children's lives. He was a policeman for a brief period of time and eventually went back to Germany. In the meantime, Clora took the kids and moved to another town in Maryland, Fort Washington. Martin saw that his mother worked hard to support the big family, and he tried to make her life a bit easier with his hilarious stunts. But he wasn't a saint either, as he would often get into fights on the streets of their troubled neighborhood where they lived in a council flat. Martin always admired his mother. She would always find a way to put food on the table even when things got too hard, and she never gave up. That's why Lawrence spent his first paycheck on renovating her house in North Carolina, where she lived at the time. Little by little, he started demonstrating his comedic talent not only at home. The boy went to Eleanor Roosevelt High School in Greenbelt and Friendly High School, where he would do improv stand-up routines at the end of classes. The young man's inspiration was the famous comedian Richard Pryor. Lawrence got really into boxing in high school, and he even wanted to become a professional athlete. Later on, he would often recall his days on the ring during his stand-up shows. He joked that for him, success lay in footwork. He ran away from blows, but he couldn't hit anyone either. But Martin is being too shy, as he has some achievements. By the time he was 15, he was a U.S. Amateur Athletic Union champion and a Golden Gloves boxing contender. But he had to drop out of sports after a serious eye injury, and he followed the advice of his teacher, who suggested he pursue comedy. Martin did his first gigs in nightclubs in Washington. There, he was mastering the art of comedy and learning about stage presence, and soon he was discovered by another comedian, Rich Scheidner, who offered to make some connections in New York. This is how Lawrence got into the New York comedy club, the Improv, where he made a name for himself in stand-up comedy. But the ambitious young man wanted more, and he was set on making it on TV. He went on the talent show Star Search, where he performed in the comedy section. He made it to the final stage but didn't win. But he still intrigued TV producers, who offered him a role in the third season of the sitcom What's Happening Now in 1987. His character of Maurice Warfield became an audience favorite, but the project was canceled. In 1989, Lawrence appeared in Spike Lee's comedy drama Do the Right Thing, followed by the 1990 music comedy House Party. A year later, he appeared in a sequel to the movie, as well as in the motion picture about a stand-up comedian, Talkin' Dirty After Dark. Martin got a chance to introduce himself to a bigger audience in 1992, when he was offered to co-star with Eddie Murphy in the comedy Boomerang.
Come out, man, and say it. Call us Jungle Bunnies, man.
What?
Asparagus spares?
What?
If we were white, it would have been asparagus tips. Racial, man, racial.
Oh, man, you tripping now.
No, you tripping.
Definitely.
Lawrence's career was gaining traction, and during that time, Russell Simmons, an entertainment sphere mogul, invited him to host the show Def Comedy Jam, where a lot of comedians, including Chris Tucker, began their journey. Our hero hosted 2 seasons of the show and joined the cast of the TV show that has his name Martin in the title on the cable channel Fox TV. The show aired from 1992 to 1997, becoming a huge success and one of the highest-rated programs on the channel, bringing millions of viewers to the screens every Thursday night. Apart from the main role of a radio DJ, Lawrence portrayed some other characters. His sister Ursula and Ray also made short appearances. After working on the TV show, Ray got into behind-the-scenes work and became a producer, while Ursula decided to stay away from the limelight, but she started a fan club for her brother. Meanwhile, in 1993, Lawrence got engaged with the actress Lark Voorhees, but the two never tied the knot and broke up. This is when he also released his debut solo hip-hop album, which received negative reviews but still made it to the top 10 on Billboard Top R&B and Hip-Hop Albums. His second album came out 2 years later, but it wasn't really a success. The rising star of the American comedy charmed the creators of the TV show Saturday Night Live, and on February 19, 1994, he hosted the show. However, it led to one of the biggest scandals in the history of the show. Lawrence made degrading jokes that had to be cut from the recording of the program, as the studio received more than 200 complaints, including the show's sponsors. After that, the comic was banned from NBC. A bit later, the ban was lifted, but he hasn't appeared on Saturday Night Live ever since. The scandal didn't stop Martin from receiving the title of the Best American Comedian. His harsh and a bit unconventional humor exposed social stereotypes, showing that they're hypocritical and useless, which impressed even tough critics. The actor nailed down his success with the role of a detective in the 1995 comedy action movie Bad Boys, where he co-starred with Will Smith.
The bad guys probably know where you live, which means they're coming for your ass. Good luck.
According to the plot, their characters were complete opposites, so they would often get into arguments. The director, Michael Bay, didn't really like the lines in the script, so he allowed the actors to improvise on camera. Back at the time, Lawrence was considered to be in more demand than his colleague Will Smith. You could see the difference even in the salary gap. Martin got $6 million, while Will only got $2 million. But it changed later on, which caused some awkwardness, as Lawrence refused to appear in sequels if he was paid less than his co-star. In the same 1995, the comedian married Miss Virginia Patricia Southall, and on January 15, 1996, they welcomed their daughter, Jasmine Page. In April 1996, the rom-com A Thin Line Between Love and Hate was released, in which Martin not only starred but also worked as director and producer. But his venture into the sphere received mixed reactions. That was partly due to an incident that happened on set. The comedian had a breakdown because he was practically working on the movie alone. The box office results were not that bad. With a budget of $8 million, the movie grossed almost $35 million, while most critics gave it negative reviews.
I'm here for you. I'm here for you. You hear me when I say that? That's why I'm here.
Soon, the comedian's family fell apart because of his addiction. The man would often get aggressive and threaten his wife and her relatives. In October 1997, Patricia got a restraining order from her ex-husband. Not long after that, he started going out with Shamika Gibbs. The TV show Martin was still going, but in November 1997, Tisha Campbell, one of the main stars, left the cast. She mentioned unbearable working conditions, and in 1997, she filed a lawsuit against Lawrence and the producers for harassment and verbal and physical abuse. The absence of her character on the show was explained by the fact that she had other things to do. But HBO studio had to break a sweat to settle the conflict, and Tisha made a comeback for the last 2 episodes as long as she didn't have to interact with Martin. Later on, Campbell and Lawrence patched up their relationship, appearing in Martin Reunion in 2022. Apart from the scandal with the sitcom co-star and the divorce, Martin got into other unpleasant stories. He earned a reputation as an explosive character among TV colleagues and was arrested for inappropriate behavior several times. He was running around the streets of Los Angeles, screaming and flashing his gun. 2 months later, he tried to bring it into a flight. He was charged with gun possession and put on probation after the latter incident. Later, Lawrence explained that he behaved that way because he let fame go to his head and had an addiction. I was in it, the glitz, the glamour. It just caught up. In 1997, viewers witnessed Martin in the comedy action movie Nothing to Lose, for which he got $6 million. The The next time the comedian appeared on screen was 2 years later, in 1999. The star was cast in the action movie Blue Streak and the crime film Life. Both of them naturally have a comedic ring to them. There was some room for improvisation. For instance, in the scene in Life where the characters played by Lawrence and Eddie Murphy are standing on boxes with bottles of alcohol, Claude, portrayed by our hero, says that he got one of his toes in a bottle. This was a total accident and Murphy's laughter was genuine.
Oh, gee, damn, one of my toes in the bottle. Damn it. Great shit.
This time, Martin's salary was $8.5 million. That same year, the star went for a midday run near his house in preparation for his next role. He wore several layers of clothing for it, but he collapsed due to extreme heat. He didn't wake up until 3 days later. All this time, he was in a coma on a ventilator. Doctors were afraid his brain, kidneys, and heart would sustain damage, but everything was okay. Lawrence said that the accident had a huge impact on him, made him find his way back to God and turn his life around. Soon he stated that he overcame his addiction and started taking better care of his health. The comedian's career also got a fresh start. At the end of May 2000, the movie Big Mama's House came out, and it was a success. This was the role Martin was training for in heavy clothing. He wore a heavy, fat bodysuit on set, and they would even attach a special cooling system to his suit during some scenes. It is said that the role brought the actor a bit over $10 million.
Big Mama asked me to come by and,
At
take
5:45 in the morning?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I'm an electrician, you know.
In the same year, in November, Martin and Shamika welcomed their daughter, Leanna Faith. In 2002, they had their second daughter, Amara Trinity, but the parents weren't in a rush to make their relationship official. In the meantime, Lawrence's filmography was enriched by the crime comedy What's the Worst That Could Happen, for which he got $13 million, and the fantasy movie Black Knight.
2001.
2. It is the year of our Lord 1328.
Ah!
The role was initially meant for Chris Rock, but they didn't want to pay him $15 million. However, the movie creators couldn't save money as Martin Lawrence got an even bigger salary of $16.5 million. Apart from that, in 2001, the celebrity got a right to leave his handprints and footprints on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Soon, rumors started to circulate that Lawrence would become one of the few Hollywood actors who would make $20 million per movie. This turned out to be true as he signed a contract with Columbia Pictures Studio for 2 projects, comedy action movies. The first came out in January 2003 under the title National Security. The second movie was a sequel to Bad Boys. It premiered that same year in summer, and Will Smith also got $20 million.
Who shot you in the ass?
Who? That who will be you.
Me? I shot you?
Yeah.
Then, Martin got the main role of a college basketball player in the family comedy Rebound, which was released in July 2005. In January 2006, he presented a sequel to Big Mama's House.
In that case, Big Mama love taking care of the kids.
Oh, good.
Unless, of course, you think they'd be better off in a nice military academy.
No. That's funny.
After which he voiced characters for the animated movies Boog and Elliot's Midnight Bun Run and Open Season. In 2007, Lawrence played one of the leading roles in the adventure comedy Wild Hogs, which became a box office hit, but critics weren't crazy about it. They described it as a terrible mix of awkward jokes, farce, and trite stereotypes.
My man.
Yeah.
Show me love. Show me love. Hey, guess what? The trip's back on.
Back on.
Yeah.
The comedian's next movies were Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins, College Road Trip, Death at a Funeral, and Big Mama's Like Father Like Son. You can't call them hits per se. By the way, the actor agreed to a lower salary for the latter movie to fit into the budget. As for his personal life, there were some changes. In July 2010, he and Shamika said I do. However, 2 years later, they broke up due to irreconcilable differences, but they managed to stay friends. Martin is still in his daughter's lives, and he addresses heartfelt messages to them on social media. Lawrence disappeared from the big screen for several years, but he made his comeback in 2014 with the comedy TV show about 2 lawyers from Chicago, titled Partners. Martin co-starred with Kelsey Grammer. The show attracted a pretty big audience, while critics didn't like it at all. The creators of Partners were accused of copying the 1995 sitcom of the same name, but they were always open about it. Outdated jokes, cliches, and predictable plots, all this led to the project being canceled after 10 episodes. After this failure, Lawrence fell off the radar for several more years. Viewers got a chance to see him only in 2019 when he appeared in the comedy movie The Beach Bum with Matthew McConaughey as the lead.
Motherfucker, Gap, you put on a fucking show, man.
This ain't no motherfucking dog.
That same year, some sources said that Martin was engaged to a nurse named Roberta Muradfar. The press stated that the actor gave her an engagement ring worth $500,000. In 2020, Lawrence reunited with Will Smith in the comedy action movie Bad Boys for Life, for which he got $6 million.
You don't know that's Carver, Remy. That could be anybody. Come in the front door. I'm retired. I'm a civilian.
Our hero made the first announcements about filming the movie back in 2013, while his behavior left fans worried. His speech was slow during the interview, he made long pauses between words and looked rough. There were rumors he had serious health issues, including suffering a stroke. Other theories explained his state with tragic events in Martin's life. He lost his brother and best friend. By the way, earlier the comedian revealed he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. In 2022, the actor took an unexpectedly serious role in the mystical thriller Mind Cage. The reviews were mainly negative, but it got to the top 10 most watched shows on Netflix, gaining 9 million streams in the first week.
I promised to help you find the killer, Mary. And here he is.
Jake, what's wrong with you?
Oh, Jake's not here right now.
In April 2023, Lawrence received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in the television category. That same year, fans of the Bad Boys franchise got exciting news about the fourth installment being in the works. A lot of people thought the future of the action movie was uncertain after Will Smith got involved in the scandal at the Oscars, but Lawrence was quick to assure fans that it was still on. After several postponements, the movie premiered at the beginning of June of that year, and Martin was joined by his daughters and new girlfriend, Angie Gonzalez, on the carpet.
There's ginger ale and nothing else.
Are those dogs fresh?
Put them in yesterday.
Give me one.
Now there's the animated movie Sneaks in the Works, where Martin voiced one of the characters. It's about a pair of sneakers getting lost in New York. Apart from that, they're preparing to film the TV series Nahama. Sometimes Lawrence goes back to his roots and does stand-up. He admitted that he still gets nervous before going on stage. However, it doesn't bother him. On the contrary, it helps him concentrate on winning the audience's attention. Martin released videos of his performances via his own production company, Runteldat Entertainment. The celebrity used to experience fits of rage, which he learned to moderate with meditation. Ever since Lawrence gave up alcohol and drugs, he's been trying to leverage his fame for good. He joined several charity initiatives, supported educational projects and children's hospitals, and helped victims of natural disasters. Martin has been friends with his colleague Eddie Murphy for many years. They appeared together in several movies, but now there's a chance they may become a family, as Jasmine Lawrence and Eric Murphy have been an item for some years. Martin said that he and Eddie stay away from their kids' relationships, but they already tried to make each other pay for the wedding. Despite his questionable past and being difficult, you can't overlook the huge impact Lawrence has had on comedy and pop culture. For instance, the star of the TV show Saturday Night Live, Tracy Morgan, calls Martin his mentor and thanks him for helping him get into the big comedy. Other star fans include Dave Chappelle and Kevin Hart. People also give Lawrence credit for Snoop Dogg's first TV appearance. The celebrity's net worth is estimated at $110 million. Apart from acting and stand-up comedy, his other source of income is advertising campaigns. For example, he appeared in a Super Bowl commercial for Greek yogurt Oikos. In it, Lawrence and ex-football player Shannon Sharpe play golf, but their cart gets into a pond. The celebrities were given freedom to improvise, and this is how they came up with the line that Sharpe owes Lawrence a new pair of pants. The other time, Martin became the face of the sports and betting company DraftKings and appeared in a series of 10 sitcom-style ad videos about the NFL. During his glory days, he collaborated with such legends as Nike, Pepsi, and McDonald's. He owned a big, almost 13,000 square foot mansion in Beverly Hills for several years. There's a garden, a summer kitchen, and a swimming pool on site. Guests are greeted by a massive staircase that leads to the second floor. The house has 7 bedrooms, living rooms with a fireplace, a dining room, spacious bathrooms, a room with a pool table, and a home cinema. Apparently, the mansion got a bit too big for Martin after the divorce, so he put it on lease for $200,000 per month and then sold it for $17.2 million. After that, the star purchased a more low-key mansion in Encino, California for $6.63 million. Lawrence also owned a big ranch not far from Purcellville, Virginia. It was his escape from publicity and a place to enjoy the company of family and friends. He had everything for it there: an indoor basketball court, an indoor swimming pool and spa, a gym, bowling, a room with a pool table, a cozy kitchen, and 5 bedrooms. But in 2018, Martin decided to sell the property for $8.5 million. Lawrence's car fleet has had some luxury and custom cars, including a 1967 Plymouth Barracuda worth $87,000, Ferrari 458 Italia, and Aston Martin V12 Zagato worth around $250,000 each, Porsche Boxster for $60,000, and Porsche Panamera worth $90,000. Apart from that, Martin shared pictures of his Rolls-Royce on his social media. Ever since the beginning of his decades-long career, Lawrence has charmed the audience with his sense of humor and suave, leaving an imprint in the comedy and acting industry. He still keeps on inspiring and entertaining the audience, and proves that you can get back on track even when you hit rock bottom.
We lay it down, we turn in our papers, and we retire.
Do you like Martin Lawrence's sense of humor?